Part 1. The Haunting of Blackwood Forest. In the heart of Virginia lies the enigmatic Blackwood Forest, a place steeped in mystery and ancient legend. Known for its towering oaks and dense thickets, Blackwood has been the backdrop for countless eerie tales passed down through generations. The most chilling of these tales centers around an ancient ghost, believed to be the spirit of a colonial-era soldier who met a tragic end in the forest depths. This ghost, known as the Guardian of Blackwood, was said to haunt the area, his presence felt by those who ventured too deep into his domain. On a cool, foggy morning, a group of 4 friends, Michael, Sarah, Alex, and Lisa, set out to explore Blackwood Forest. They were avid adventurers, always in search of new experiences and the thrill of the unknown. Despite hearing the legends, they were skeptical and eager to debunk the ghost stories that surrounded the forest. As they trekked deeper into the forest, the towering trees and thick underbrush closed in around them, creating an atmosphere both majestic and foreboding. The path they followed was narrow and winding, often obscured by the dense foliage. The air grew cooler, and a sense of unease began to creep in. But the friends pressed on, determined to prove the legends false. By late afternoon, they found a suitable spot to set up camp. They pitched their tents in a small clearing, surrounded by ancient oaks whose branches stretched high above, forming a natural canopy. As evening approached, they built a fire, its flickering flames casting long shadows that danced among the trees. The forest was eerily silent, the usual sounds of wildlife conspicuously absent. Night fell, and the friends gathered around the campfire, sharing stories and laughter. The fire crackled and popped, adding a comforting sound to the stillness. However, as the night deepened, a dense fog began to roll in, enveloping the forest in a thick, impenetrable blanket. The air grew colder, and an unsettling feeling settled over the group. Without warning, the silence was broken by the distant sound of rustling leaves. The friends glanced at each other, their earlier bravado replaced by a creeping sense of fear. The rustling grew louder, and a figure emerged from the fog, barely visible in the dim light. It was the ghostly form of a man, dressed in tattered colonial garb, his eyes glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light. The apparition moved slowly towards them, his presence both commanding and terrifying. The friends were frozen with fear, unable to look away from the ghost's glowing eyes. As he drew closer, they could see the details of his face, marked with sorrow and anger. He raised an arm, pointing directly at them, and then vanished as suddenly as he had appeared. Shaken and terrified, the friends quickly retreated to their tents, hoping that sleep would bring them respite from the night's horrors. However, their sleep was anything but peaceful. Each of them experienced vivid, terrifying dreams, haunted by the ghost's piercing gaze. They dreamt of the forest, of being lost and pursued by the spectral figure, unable to escape his relentless presence. The following morning, they awoke in a state of disarray. Their initial excitement had been replaced by a lingering dread. They quickly packed up their camp and left the forest, each of them eager to put as much distance between themselves and Blackwood as possible. But as they returned to their daily lives, they found that the ghost haunting was far from over. Everywhere they went, they saw glimpses of the ghostly figure. His eyes appeared in reflections, in shadows, and even in their dreams. The haunting was relentless, a constant reminder of their encounter in Blackwood Forest. Michael, the most skeptical of the group, tried to rationalize the experience, but even he couldn't deny the growing fear that gripped him. Sarah, deeply shaken, began researching the history of Blackwood Forest, hoping to find a way to end the haunting. She discovered that the ghost was known as Captain Elias Blackwood, a colonial soldier who had died under mysterious circumstances in the forest. According to the legend, Captain Blackwood had been betrayed by his own men, left to die in the forest, his spirit bound to the place of his death. Determined to free themselves from the ghost's grip, the friends decided to return to Blackwood Forest and perform a ritual to release Captain Blackwood's spirit. They gathered the necessary items: candles, herbs, and a ceremonial chant they had found in an old text. With a mix of fear and resolve, they set out once more for the forest, hoping to end their nightmare. As they entered Blackwood Forest, the familiar sense of dread settled over them. The trees seemed taller, the shadows darker, and the fog thicker than before. They made their way to the clearing where they had camped, setting up the ritual site with trembling hands. As they began the chant, the air grew still, and the forest fell silent. The figure of Captain Blackwood appeared once more, his eyes glowing with an intense, unearthly light. But this time, there was no anger in his gaze. The friends continued the chant, their voices steady despite their fear. The ghost raised his arm, not in accusation, but in acknowledgement. As the ritual reached its climax, the figure began to fade, the light in his eyes dimming. With the final words of the chant, Captain Blackwood vanished, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The friends felt a sense of relief wash over them, knowing they had succeeded in freeing the spirit. They left Blackwood Forest, their bond stronger, and their spirits lighter. The haunting had ended, but the experience had left a lasting mark. They had faced the unknown and emerged victorious, forever changed by their encounter with the ancient ghost of Blackwood Forest. Their story became a new legend, told around campfires and shared in whispers, a testament to the power of belief, courage, and the enduring spirit of a long-lost soldier seeking peace. Part 2. The Lingering Presence Despite. Their belief that they had freed Captain Blackwood's spirit, the friends soon realized that their ordeal was far from over. The ghostly figure continued to haunt their lives, his presence more invasive than ever. The haunting had taken a more sinister turn, seeping into their daily existence in ways they could no longer ignore. Michael was the first to notice the lingering presence. It began with subtle signs, flickering lights, cold drafts, and the feeling of being watched, but soon, the manifestations grew more overt. Objects moved on their own, eerie whispers filled the air, and shadows danced along the walls. Each night, he was plagued by vivid nightmares of Captain Blackwood, the spectral eyes burning into his soul. His sleep became restless, and he awoke each morning with a sense of dread that only intensified with each passing day. Sarah, too, was not spared. The diligent researcher, she continued to dive into the history of Blackwood Forest, desperate to find a solution. Her days were filled with research, and her nights with the ghost's relentless presence. She began to see Captain Blackwood in mirrors, his reflection haunting her own. No matter where she went, his eyes followed, their eerie glow a constant reminder of their failed ritual. The more she tried to ignore it, the stronger the presence became. Alex, usually the calm and collected one, found himself unraveling. He started hearing disembodied voices, soft at first, but growing louder with each passing day. They whispered his name, taunted him, and filled him with an inexplicable sense of fear. His once peaceful home became a place of terror, every corner a potential hiding spot for the ghostly figure. He started to isolate himself, avoiding his friends and family, consumed by the haunting. Lisa, the empathetic one, was perhaps the most affected. She felt a deep connection to Captain Blackwood's sorrow, experiencing not only fear, but also profound sadness. Her dreams were filled with visions of his last moments, the betrayal by his own men, and his desperate fight for survival. These visions were so vivid that she often woke up in tears, her heart aching for the tormented spirit. She began to feel that their initial ritual was not enough, that there was more they needed to do to bring him peace. The friends reunited, each sharing their harrowing experiences. It became clear that their initial attempt to free Captain Blackwood's spirit had only angered him further. They needed to find a more powerful solution, one that would truly lay his soul to rest. Sarah, with her extensive research, discovered an ancient, more intricate ritual that might succeed where the first had failed. This ritual required them to return to Blackwood Forest, but this time, they would have to delve deeper into its heart, to the very place where Captain Blackwood had met his tragic end. The journey back to Blackwood Forest was filled with trepidation. The friends were no longer the confident adventurers they had once been. They were now haunted, desperate souls seeking redemption. As they entered the forest, the atmosphere was even more oppressive than before. The trees seemed taller, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The fog was thicker, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. They followed the path deeper into the forest, guided by Sarah's research and a sense of urgency. The deeper they went, the stronger the feeling of being watched became. The forest was silent, save for the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant call of an owl. They reached a clearing, a place Sarah had identified as the likely site of Captain Blackwood's betrayal and death. Setting up the ritual site, the friends felt a mix of fear and hope. They arranged the candles in a circle, placed the herbs in the center, and prepared to chant the ancient incantation. As they began, the air grew colder, and the forest around them fell into an eerie silence. The ghostly figure of Captain Blackwood appeared once more, his eyes glowing with an intense light that seemed to pierce through the darkness. This time, the friends were prepared. They continued the chant, their voices steady and strong. The ghost watched them, his expression a mixture of anger and sorrow. As the ritual progressed, the friends felt a change in the air. The oppressive weight began to lift, and the ghost figure started to waver, as if caught between this world and the next. The climax of the ritual approached, and the friends poured all their energy into the final incantation. Captain Blackwood raised his arm one last time, but this time it was a gesture of peace. His eyes softened, and the light within them dimmed. With the final words of the chant, the ghostly figure began to fade, the glow in his eyes extinguishing. For a moment there was silence. Then the forest seemed to come alive with the sounds of nature birds chirping, leaves rustling, and the distant sound of a brook. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, replaced by a sense of calm and serenity. The friends knew that they had finally succeeded in freeing Captain Blackwood's spirit. They left Blackwood Forest for the last time, their hearts lighter and their bond stronger. The haunting had ended, and they could finally return to their lives without fear. The memory of their encounter, however, would remain with them forever, a testament to their courage, friendship, and the enduring power of belief. Part 3. The Unseen Connection. After their harrowing experience in Blackwood Forest, the friends returned to their lives, hoping to leave the past behind. The haunting had ended, but the memories remained vivid and haunting. Over time, they began to notice subtle changes in their surroundings and within themselves. It seemed that their encounter with Captain Blackwood had left an indelible mark. Michael was the first to experience these changes. His initial relief at the end of the haunting gave way to a strange sensation. He began to feel an inexplicable connection to the forest, as though a part of him remained bound to it. His dreams, once filled with nightmares of the ghost, now featured the serene beauty of Blackwood Forest. He saw the towering oaks, felt the cool mist, and heard the rustling leaves as though he were still there. These dreams brought him a sense of peace, but also a yearning he couldn't understand. Sarah, ever the researcher, found herself drawn back to the history of the forest. She discovered more about Captain Blackwood and the events that led to his betrayal. The more she learned, the stronger her connection to the forest grew. She began to feel a responsibility to preserve its history and protect its secrets. This newfound purpose drove her to volunteer with local historical societies and environmental groups, dedicating her time to the preservation of Blackwood Forest. Alex, who had been tormented by voices during the haunting, found solace in nature. He took up hiking and often returned to Blackwood Forest, not out of fear, but out of a need to connect with the place that had once filled him with dread. Each visit brought him closer to understanding the spirit of Captain Blackwood and the forest itself. The voices he once feared now seemed to guide him, offering wisdom and insight. Lisa's empathy deepened after their encounter. She felt a profound connection to the spirit world and began to explore this connection through meditation and spiritual practices. Her dreams, once filled with sorrow, now brought her visions of peace and understanding. She felt the presence of Captain Blackwood as a protective force, guiding her on a path of healing and compassion. As the friends navigated their new realities, they remained in close contact, sharing their experiences and supporting each other. They decided to return to Blackwood Forest together, not to perform another ritual, but to pay homage to the place that had changed their lives forever. They felt a collective need to honor Captain Blackwood and the forest that had become an integral part of their existence. Their return to Blackwood Forest was different this time. They felt no fear, only a deep respect and reverence. The forest welcomed them with open arms, its towering trees and dense foliage a testament to its enduring beauty. They found the clearing where they had performed the ritual and set up a small memorial for Captain Blackwood, a token of their gratitude and respect. As they sat around a new campfire, they reflected on their journey. The fire crackled and popped, casting warm, dancing shadows on their faces. They spoke of their experiences, the changes they had undergone, and the lessons they had learned. The forest seemed to listen, its ancient presence a silent witness to their stories. That night, As they slept under the canopy of Blackwood Forest, they were visited by dreams of the past and the future. Captain Blackwood appeared to them not as a ghost, but as a guardian of the forest. His eyes, once filled with sorrow and anger, now shone with peace and wisdom. He thanked them for freeing his spirit and entrusted them with the protection of Blackwood Forest. The friends awoke with a sense of purpose and fulfillment. They knew that their lives were forever intertwined with the forest and its guardian. They had been chosen to continue the legacy of Blackwood, to protect its secrets, and to ensure that its history would never be forgotten. Returning to their lives, they carried the spirit of Blackwood with them. Michael pursued a career in environmental science, dedicating his work to the preservation of natural landscapes. Sarah became a historian, specializing in the folklore and history of haunted places. Alex, inspired by his experiences, became a wilderness guide, sharing the beauty and mystery of nature with others. Lisa embraced her spiritual connection, helping others to heal and find peace through her practices. Their bond remained unbreakable, forged in the fires of their shared ordeal. They met regularly, often returning to Blackwood Forest to reconnect with the place that had shaped their destinies. The forest, in turn, thrived under their care, its secrets safe, and its beauty preserved for future generations. The story of Captain Blackwood and his guardians became a new legend, a tale of courage, friendship, and the enduring power of the human spirit. It was told around campfires, shared in whispers, and passed down through the years. Blackwood Forest, once a place of fear, became a symbol of hope and resilience. The friends had faced the unknown and emerged stronger, their lives forever changed by their encounter with the ancient ghost of Blackwood Forest. Their story, like the forest itself, would endure through time, a testament to the enduring power of belief, courage, and the unbreakable bond of friendship.